I took in my jobless brother and his pregnant girlfriend, then kicked them out after they mocked my disabled husband who survived a coma. I'm 28 and I know this is going to sound awful, but please hear me out. My younger brother, who's 24, is the only son in our family, and if you're familiar with Asian households, that usually means he got treated like royalty while my older sister and I were expected to just deal with it. Our dad passed away just before my brother finished high school, and after that, our sweet but often misguided mom decided it made sense for my sister and me to cover his college tuition since our dad had paid for ours before he passed. Now, just for some context, I make a decent living, it's slightly above average, but I'm far from rich, and I put in long, exhausting hours. Let's be real, the economy isn't exactly a fairy tale right now. These days, I'm married. I actually proposed to my husband, who's also 28 and someone I've known since middle school. He was in a horrible accident not long ago, one that left him with serious damage to his motor skills. He was in a coma for 2 weeks, and I told myself that if he ever woke up, I'd marry him. And I did, because when I give my word, I mean it. He ended up losing his job after the accident, but thankfully, he still has income from his investments. His parents, who are seriously wealthy, also gave him one of their rental properties to generate income. Still, even without financial strain, he sank into a rough depression after the accident. He'd lost everything that made him feel like himself, his job, his love for outdoor adventures, even the ability to walk properly. For almost a year, he couldn't stand on his own, and even now he can't walk or stand for long, even with his cane. It was a dark time, but about a month before our wedding, something changed. He discovered a passion for cooking and baking. Slowly, I watched his spark come back. He got so into it that we remodeled our entire kitchen, new oven, shelves for baking gear, the works. These days, he's researching permits to open a bakery. And even though I spent 3 straight weeks eating sourdough for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I absolutely love seeing him so inspired again. Now let's circle back to my brother. He and his girlfriend ended up with an unplanned pregnancy. He's been trying to land a job ever since he graduated 2 years ago. Right out of college, he jumped into starting a business, but it tanked. Along the way, he blew through almost all of the inheritance our dad left for the 3 of us. That caused a massive fallout between him and our older sister, understandably so, especially since he used up her portion too, on top of the tuition expenses. If you've ever known an Asian eldest daughter, you know they usually get the shortest end of the stick. He's not on great terms with our mom either now, not because she dislikes his girlfriend, but because the pregnancy came out of nowhere and she's not exactly thrilled. Still, he's her favorite. The golden boy. That's probably why she asked me, her recently married daughter, to let my brother and his girlfriend crash at our place while he job hunted. Since I live in a major city, she figured he'd have better luck finding something here. So I brought it up with my husband. I asked if maybe we could rent one of his rooms to them. And being the absolute angel he is, he told me that the places he owns aren't really ideal for someone expecting a baby, but he'd try to remodel one to make it livable. Until that was ready, they could stay in the guest room upstairs. They wouldn't need to pay rent until my brother had a steady income. Now, I've read enough stories to know this kind of setup usually leads to disaster. And honestly, I should have trusted my gut. They moved in right before Christmas. From the start, they barely helped out. Sure, they washed some of their dishes, but only the easy stuff like cups and plates. Pots and pans? Left for us. They handled their own laundry and, that was pretty much it. They treated our pantry and fridge like a buffet line, never once replacing anything they used. Some days, I didn't even get to try the pastries my husband made for me because they ate the ones he'd set aside. I'd get home after pulling 2 back-to-back hospital shifts, I'm a medical resident, mind you, and still end up washing dishes I knew my husband hadn't used. They never vacuumed their area on the 2nd floor. Never helped take out the trash, even when it was overflowing. I usually pitch in when I can, but I kept coming home to see my husband dragging his cane, barely standing, taking the garbage out by himself. I'm not saying they had to clean the whole house, but the least they could do was pitch in. Watching my husband do chores with a disability while they lounged around rent-free? That really started to grind on me. So, I finally said something. I kept it calm, watered it down, just lightly told them, if my brother wants a job, he could start by learning to take out the trash. And sure, she's pregnant, but she could at least clean up the dishes she dirted. I said teamwork makes the dream work, simple as that. They did slightly better after that. Now they actually clean all their dishes, but they just leave them out on the rack. No effort to put them away. But hey, baby steps, right? Then came the breaking point. It was Chinese New Year, and my mom and sister were coming to visit. My husband went all out in the kitchen, and I deep cleaned the house, even prepped the other guest room for my family. That's when I noticed just how neglected the upstairs had become, dust everywhere. My brother and his girlfriend didn't even come out of their room until my family showed up. We greeted everyone, gave my mom her New Year's bow, and sat down for dinner. And that's when everything blew up. My brother, with the kind of smugness that made my skin crawl, said it was time for my husband to get a real job again since he could walk now. He even had the nerve to say, no offense, before calling cooking a weird hobby for a big guy like my husband, who's 6 feet 3 inches, by the way. Then he added that he, at least, was younger and actually trying to work. His girlfriend piled on, saying my husband seemed more feminine than her because he did more around the house and cooked better than she could. She said, and I quote, that they kept asking him why he's still at home years after the accident, and warned that I'd probably leave him soon if he didn't get his act together. She even whined that he always just smiled and never responded to them. Even my brother started realizing she crossed a line and tried to backtrack, saying they only brought it up once or twice. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, grabbed their plates, and told them to pack up and leave. I was too angry and embarrassed to even look at my husband. It took everything I had not to explode right there. They insisted I was overreacting to harmless comments. My mom stepped in, trying to smooth things over, saying they didn't mean any harm and that my husband didn't seem offended, so why ruin the day? I didn't care. I handed them my car keys and told them to go. They left with my sister after tossing out a weak apology to my husband. Later, she told me they stayed at a motel before eventually heading back to our mom's place. The next day, my older sister swung by to grab my brother's belongings. She actually found the whole thing kind of hilarious. Honestly, she was the only one who seemed to think I'd done the right thing. My husband told me he appreciated that I stood up for him, even if he didn't take their comments personally. He said he knows how much I support what he's doing, but he also gently suggested maybe I was a bit too harsh. That started making me second-guess myself. Then my mom called and said that my brother's and his girlfriend's words weren't enough of a reason to kick them out. She really leaned into the "but she's pregnant" angle, repeating it like it was some kind of protective shield. Apparently, my brother also whined to her about how I'd scolded him over the dishes, like some toddler telling on his sibling. I still don't think I went too far, and I'm still mad, honestly, but the way everyone's so casual about it is starting to mess with my head. Even my husband being so laid back about the whole thing made me wonder if I overreacted. But then I started reading through the comments on my original post. One person said, NTA. Your brother stole the inheritance, he's a thief, lazy, got his girlfriend pregnant, doesn't work, disrespects your home and husband while living there for free, and has been a terrible guest. You were too patient. Actions have consequences. Don't ever lift a finger to help him again. He feels entitled because your mother made him that way, but all of you have been enabling him. And you know what? That hit hard. Because it's true, I did enable him, even if just a little. I let him move in. I tried to be understanding. I thought I was doing the right thing. Lesson learned. Never again. So, thank you for the reality check. Another comment said, still NTA. Good on you for defending your husband. Hopefully your brother and his freeloading girlfriend got a much-needed wake-up call. The fact they insulted your husband while living rent-free is unbelievable. That reminded me, I should have clarified something. My brother never took my car. It was my sister who grabbed the keys and drove them to the motel. The car's sitting safe and sound in my garage now. She even filled the gas tank before returning it. One more person wrote, NTA. If your mom has such strong feelings, she can take them in herself. Your responsibility is your husband, not your brother or his girlfriend. Toxic people like them can drag your husband down, especially with what he's been through. Who knows what they say to him when you're not around? That last part stuck with me. I actually asked my husband about that. I needed to know, had they said anything worse behind my back? Why didn't he tell me? He admitted that speaking's been hard for him because of some lingering issues from the accident, so most of the time he just didn't have the energy to respond. But he said there was one time when he did clap back. He joked about it, but apparently what he said was pretty biting. He thinks that's why my brother brought it up at dinner. Guess he was still sore about it. Update. I didn't think I'd be writing an update, but here we are. I woke up this morning to a flood of comments and kind messages. I just want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to read my long ramble and respond with such understanding. Last night, my husband and I sat together and read through a bunch of the responses. He was genuinely touched. He even blushed a little at the people calling him a saint. Don't tell him I said that, but it was honestly adorable. I tried to reply to as many of you as I could, but after about an hour, I had to tap out. My fingers and my brain both hit their limit. So instead, I thought I'd answer some of the most common questions I got in the comments. 1. Did my brother take my car? Nope. He didn't touch it. My sister was the one who took the keys. She drove them to a nearby motel, and later she brought the car back, full tank and all. The car is safe in the garage. 2. Why did I even let him move in? To be honest, I'm not very close with my family, and anyone who understands Asian family dynamics might already know why. I went to a boarding high school, so I'd already moved out pretty early. During college, I barely came home maybe once or twice a year, usually for Chinese New Year, and only for a few days. I worked part-time during breaks just to avoid being around them. I kept minimal contact and only really knew my brother as a spoiled mama's boy. He never insulted me or crossed a line before, and I figured he was actually a little afraid of me. I was the one who used to call him out and force him to apologize whenever he upset our mom or sister after dad passed. Because of all that, I didn't expect him to pull something so disrespectful. He had good grades and graduated from a decent college, so I assumed he'd find a job quickly. Before my mom asked me to let him stay, she actually had the audacity to ask if I'd pay for his wedding. Absolutely not. Not even if she told me it would be a small, simple one. I'd sooner grow another head than shell out a dime for that. So instead of dealing with her nagging for months, I compromised and said he could stay with us temporarily until he found a job. That was my biggest mistake. 3. Why did I agree to cover his tuition and let him use my inheritance? Technically, I didn't pay anything out of pocket. My dad left an inheritance for the three of us, and I told my mom she could use my portion for my brother's education. My logic at the time was, if I ever touched that money myself, she'd demand something in return. So I figured, might as well give it up now and save myself the headache later. I never really thought of that inheritance as mine, so I didn't feel the loss. But I did have to avoid my mom for a few months after he got into college. She started saying the inheritance was supposed to help pay for our weddings, and I just didn't want to deal with it. Eventually, she dropped it. I did, however, make my brother sit down and apologize to our older sister. I told him he needed to repay her, especially after his business failed. But since I'd given my mom permission to use my share, I didn't feel like I had the right to get mad about it later. Still, maybe I should have at least told my sister she had every right to slap him. For, why does my husband, as someone put it, have no spine? Okay, first of all, my husband literally has titanium in his spine. So he's got more backbone than most. Joking aside, I know I didn't talk much about his side of things in my original post. I was mostly focused on what happened, why I finally snapped, and how we got to that point. I didn't dive deep into how he felt afterward, or how he handled it, but I'll get to that. I promise. After that dinner, I actually asked my husband if it was true he didn't say anything to them like my brother and his girlfriend claimed. I also asked why he never told me they'd been insulting him. He looked genuinely offended that I even believed them for a second. Turns out, he had said something just once on New Year's, when I was working a call shift. Life really knows how to kick you sometimes. He told me he looked my brother straight in the face and said, laughing, "Bro, even if we're both unemployed, I'm still richer than you. I've got a doctor for a wife who proposed to me while I couldn't even move. My life's good. You? Just get a job." He couldn't remember the exact words, so that's my best version of what he meant. He was chuckling when he said it, so maybe my brother didn't take it seriously. But honestly, the idea of my husband saying that while laughing, it's both terrifying and, well, kind of hot. TMI, I know. As for why he never brought it up with me, he just didn't see the point. He said it didn't bother him, and on top of that, it's still hard for him to speak clearly. Some words are tough for him to pronounce since the accident. He compared my brother and his girlfriend to the neighbor's husky. Beautiful dog, but sometimes, nature just makes them loud and messy. So why get upset? I still told him that next time someone disrespects him, he better tell me. I need an excuse to finally use my long-forgotten taekwondo moves from elementary school. I only made it to yellow belt, so expectations should be low, but I'm ready. I do think he appreciated what I did more than he let on, even if he doesn't say it directly. Don't ask me how I know, I just do. 5. Why do I keep enabling my brother? Someone brought that up in the comments, and it made me think. Avoiding my family doesn't excuse it. It's true, I'm not his parent, so raising him isn't my job. But I do own up to the fact that I probably should have stepped in more often when we were younger. Maybe if I had, he wouldn't have grown up so entitled and out of touch. Anyway, that wraps up my little self-made Q&A session. It's been about a week since Chinese New Year, and not a whole lot has happened. The main thing worth mentioning is that I'd blocked both my brother and my mom on my phone, and my husband's phone too, with his permission. She tried reaching out to him yesterday, asking if the room we were going to renovate was still an option. Yeah, no. The renovation is still going forward, but only because my husband had already started the process and reached out to his parents. The room's going to someone else, someone who actually deserves it. When he told me about my mom's message, I didn't even reply. Just blocked her right then and there. My husband did ask me more than once if I was really okay with cutting off my family like that. Every time, He told me not to worry about him and said he's totally fine, but I could tell it was on his mind. And yeah, it made me hesitate for a moment. But I'm done backpedaling. I've channeled the spirit of my ancestors, the ones who built the Great Wall and the turtle ship. My mind, my heart, my soul, they're fortified. From now on, I'm treating my mom and brother like that random hair you find stuck to your butt. It's annoying, you don't need it, and yanking it off just feels better. I haven't asked my sister anything about how my brother and his girlfriend are doing, because I truly don't care. Like a lot of people told me, it's not my responsibility anymore. I did hear that my mom called my husband crazy for prioritizing me over the rest of the family. But hey, I'm her daughter. Where do you think I learned it from? After reading through the first post and all the replies together, my husband and I ended up having some really good, deep conversations. I even apologized again and asked him honestly if he ever considered leaving me after all the drama. I know that whole situation must have sucked for him. He just smiled and asked if I remembered what I said when I proposed. I had gotten him a ring that was way too big because I'd bought it based on our couple ring size. He said, "You told me to just get fat so the ring would fit." Classic cheesy Asian love story moment, don't judge. A few days after he woke up from the coma, he reminded me of that. If you could choose to stay with me when I had nothing to give, when I could barely blink, why would I ever think of leaving you now, after everything you've done to protect me? Look, I make mistakes. I may not always do everything perfectly. And sure, it might not seem like enough to some people. But for him? It's more than enough. That's all that matters. Just like how he kept eating until his fingers filled out that ring, I know he'll pick up the slack whenever I fall short. That's just how we are. Also, just to clarify, I haven't actually gone bald. I'm on sick leave, yes, but that's because my eyes are super swollen from all the crying. Kidding, sort of. I know I talk a lot, but here's the last thing I'll say. If you're in a similar situation, if you've ever felt torn between keeping the peace and standing up for yourself, just know it's okay. It's okay if it takes time. Setting boundaries isn't easy. But every step you take, even if it's messy, adds to your strength. And that's something to be proud of. So chin up. You've got this. And seriously, thanks for reading. Wishing you the best year ahead.